Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Joe and Lauren here, and we've got some pretty big news. There's reports going around that a 2025 Linkin Park reunion is going to happen. There's word that it's going to be a tour, maybe some headline festival dates, a new singer. The word is they're looking for a woman, and three of the classic members. Lauren, where do we even start with this? We know that like there's some rumors that it heated up recently, and now this.
It just kind of feels like the Pantera news all over again, where there's obviously going to be a really divided fan base. People are going to be really stoked about it, and then there's some people who are going to be not so stoked about it. So, per usual with anything rock and metal related, but I think it's really exciting. I think that any band who's been around as long as they have and has had as big of an impact as they had, they should be able to continue, especially when you have most of the core members still being involved in it.
Yeah, we rarely see all of like a classic lineup stay together for 20, 30, 40, 50. I don't know, some bands are almost 60 years old at this point. So I think in a lot of cases we have to take, whatever we're going to be able to get as long as it still feels like the product is pretty authentic. So if you haven't seen the news and haven't really been keeping up with what's been going on with Linkin Park, that's what we're here to do. We're going to fill you in on all the stuff that's been going on. And last night on April 30th, Billboard reported that they've heard from sources close to Linkin Park that a 2025 tour is kind of what they're looking at. And it sounds like they haven't found their singer yet, but the word is that they are indeed looking for a woman to front Linkin Park, obviously succeeding Chester Bennington, who died in 2017. And the three members that are also said to be taking part are going to be Mike Shinoda, of course, I think as everybody expects, Brad Delson, and Dave Farrell. Of course, that leaves two members, Joe Hahn and Rob Borden, on the outs, which we really haven't seen much of. It was kind of like a little bit of an afterthought. It felt like I've been looking across everywhere to see like fan comments and people trying to find out exactly what's going on with why it may only be a partial reunion. Uh, Lauren, what do you think of those three who are believed to be taking part if this does go through?
Well, I think that, they're going to carry on the spirit of a band that they've been involved with for so long. Like I said earlier, I mean, a similar thing happened with Guns N' Roses, where you had Axl Rose and Slash and Duff McKagan reunite. And there were obviously some members from their classic lineup that were left out of that, but it was still really big news. And I think that maybe some of the bandmates might not even agree with having a reunion. We don't know what's going on behind the scenes. We can't really speculate too much about that. It could end up coming out that they are going to be involved later on, but as of now, this is what we're hearing. This is what we got, and yeah, I think it's going to be really exciting for fans who either haven't gotten to see Linkin Park before or they're looking for another way to honor Chester's legacy, and it's exciting.
It's very exciting. And of course, we don't want to speculate on why somebody may not be taking part in the reunion. So let's talk about these three in particular and what they mean for Linkin Park. Of course, we know Mike Shinoda is one of the primary drivers in the band, one of the main songwriters, of course, co-frontman
Vocalist.
of the
Yep.
band as well. So that's a big thing. And he's been keeping pretty active with a lot of solo music. He's streaming on Twitch, just writing music live with people there watching him. So we know that this is something that, he needs to do as a creative person is to continue to make new music. But as for Dave and Brad, those two are really, really tight. They were roommates for 3 years together at UCLA. And back when I was in college, I actually had a roommate. We lived together for 3 years. And I know how close of a bond that is. I mean, that guy's like my brother to me. Really, the things that we went through together for those 3 years are a really pivotal point in life. Obviously, all the touring and the time with the band too together, but you look back before the band, how close they were even then. So it totally makes sense that they're going to be taking part. Brad's also involved in a lot of production. He co-produced the last two albums, The Hunting Party, One More Light, with Mike Shinoda before they were working a lot with Rick Rubin. Brad, Dave, and Rob, who is on the out, are also three members who are pretty heavily involved in a lot of the business operations with Linkin Park. So bringing back two out of those three seems pretty pertinent there.
Yeah, and it really makes you wonder if this is something that's been in the works for a couple of years now, or if it may have gotten sparked last year when they were releasing those outtakes from the Meteora era for the anniversary of that album that came out in 2003. So, I mean, it's possible that maybe releasing and revisiting some of that material is what sparked this and made them decide that they wanted to go through with it again, or it could have been in the works even before then. And those singles were just kind of a precursor, and we had no idea that they were foreshadowing that there was potentially going to be a reunion.
Yeah, and let's talk about how this idea of, Linkin Park even coming back at all started, which was a few weeks ago, back in late March, early April. Jay Gordon from Orgy was doing an interview with Radioactive Mike Z. They were talking a little bit about Orgy and Linkin Park, doing some things together very early in both of their careers. And Jay then took it upon himself to bring up that he had heard that Linkin Park were looking for a woman singer,
Yeah, I heard they got a girl singer now.
Oh, really?
Something. That's what I heard.
and that they were planning to come back. And that was really the first anybody had ever heard of that. Of course, Mike asked a follow up question a little bit about that. Jay began to backpedal a little bit. I think he realized what he had just done is blow the lid off a very well kept secret until
Whoopsie.
now. Whoops. And but then after he said, "Don't quote me on that," he repeated the claim that he had heard this. He later issued a statement trying to totally deny everything, and take the blame off of himself. Even said that he never brought it up. Everyone's like, "Dude, you're on video. I watched the video. You brought it up yourself." And he's like, "Well, I don't know anything about that." And it's like, well, if you don't know anything about it, then why did you say like 2 to 3 times that you had heard this? So I think trying to do a little bit of damage control for himself there. But that's really what started a lot of this. And of course, like now everybody's going to be talking. And we even saw Amy Lee had to field one of these questions about Linkin Park, right?
Yeah, so looking back at the comment, Gordon actually said that they have a new singer and that she's a woman already. He didn't say that they were looking. He said, I heard they got a girl singer. And so then it was rumored that it was Amy Lee, and she told iHeartRadio, that's an incredible compliment. Said that she has not heard it. She's not been contacted by the band, and she is a huge fan of them. And she thinks that their fan bases and their worlds would really collide really well. And she said that she would consider doing it part time, because you got to think like she Evanescence, she has her own thing going on. They're going to be going on a big tour with Hailstorm, and we don't know if they're working on any new material or not. So it's kind of a tough position when you put a lead singer of a band to front another band when it could be conflicting with their own thing going on. Going back to the Guns N' Roses reunion, Axl Rose joined AC/DC in place of Brian Johnson in 2016, right before they were going to be, and during, I believe, when the Guns N' Roses were going to be going on their own highly anticipated reunion tour. So sometimes, sometimes
Is that your dog?
singers, yes. Sometimes I think it's a tough position for singers. I'm sure when it comes to a band as big as Linkin Park, that's why Amy is saying she would consider it, because that would be such an honor. And she does have such an amazing, amazing voice and great stage presence. And I think she would really do well singing their songs. But as of now, she said that that's not the plan. So back to square one.
Yeah. And I think what you said about honoring Chester is really important to consider here, because it's not like, "Ooh, yeah, that spot's open. I want to take it. It's mine." It's if you were really close with these people and you understood each other's music and where the other one was coming from, to be able to be the person to represent that, it's very intimidating. But to represent that for yourself and understand what you're doing for the fans and the community there, is a really big honor. Where is Brandy? Can we see her?
Come here.
Lauren has a new puppy, everyone. This is Brandy.
She just sniffed the microphone. Yes, this is.
The newest member of Loudwire. Um, anyway, back to Linkin Park. So there's really a big decision that Linkin Park have to make, and I do want to address really quick. Jay said that he had heard that they do have a new singer. The Billboard sources, the sources close to the band that have told Billboard It sounds like they are still in the search process for that, and they haven't completely solidified that. So that's one thing that's really up in the air. And then the main question for Linkin Park is, do they want to take somebody who is a well-known singer, or do they want to have somebody who's a total unknown? There's pros and cons to each side as far as like what you have to weigh, but it wouldn't be totally unprecedented. We look with what Stone Temple Pilots have done with Jeff Goot and Chester actually fronted Stone Temple Pilots for a little spell as well. I even think back to, I know this reference probably isn't going to mean a lot to Linkin Park fans, but I think back to Deep Purple when David Coverdale, a complete unknown, replaced Ian Gillan, him and Glenn Hughes doing co-vocals in Deep Purple right when that band was, kind of at the height of their fame. And it worked out really well. Those records are awesome. And Queensryche as well, taking Todd LaTorre fronting up there. I mean, he's someone who sounds a lot like Jeff Tate, has come into his own with his own style across many of their new albums that they've done. And he can pay reverence to the old stuff and still add something new. In terms of Linkin Park going with a woman singer, I'm really excited by this because it could add a totally new sound, dynamic, and texture to their music and bring it to life in a completely different way than fans have heard it before.
Another similar example that we saw recently, Skid Row, they had Eric Gronwall. We hadn't heard of him before. And now they have Lizzie Hale, who's going to be doing a couple of shows with them this year. So that's another example of a woman who's going to be fronting a really huge rock band, which is very exciting. So I think that, your gender doesn't have anything to do with your talent. And there are women who obviously are capable of singing Linkin Park songs.
So when I was looking for, how the fans are feeling about this, of course, the place that we're going to go look is Reddit. And the top comment on one of the threads about the 2025 supposed reunion plans was a pretty good take, I thought. I'm going to read it for everyone right now. Before the obvious comments come, I just wanted to inform people that Chester Bennington was the last member to join the band after replacing their original lead singer over 20 years ago. And Mike Shinoda, the main songwriter for the band, is still alive and active. They have every right to continue with someone else if they want. Whether people will like it or not is another question. I think that's a pretty interesting comment. I mean, obviously, we're not going to diminish Chester's contributions to the band in any way. There wouldn't be the Linkin Park that we know without him, of course. Between the vocals that he's able to do, the singing, the screaming, just the pure range that guy had, as well as the emotional lyrics. And he was really, talking a lot about mental health before anybody in the rock space was. Unfortunately, I think a lot of us realized exactly where this was coming from too late. Even before he passed, he was very forthcoming in what he was dealing with, and the world just wasn't there yet, where we are right now with that kind of conversation.
Alice in Chains. Maybe they weren't directly addressing mental health in their songs back in the 90s, but they were talking a lot about addiction and how it was making them feel. And Lane was very open about a lot of that stuff. And they came a couple years before Linkin Park did, but they were in the same situation. Lane Staley died in 2002, and then they ended up recruiting William Duvall after a couple years, not thinking that they were going to continue on as a band anymore. And then when they found someone who fit and someone who wasn't trying to be a Lane 2.0, and that they were still honoring the same sound and style of the band, but with their own flavor to it, and they decided to continue on. So that could be what happened with Linkin Park. Maybe they never intended on continuing on, but then they found somebody who could fit and decided that it could be the start of a new chapter together. And I think we've seen that with a lot of bands. A lot of bands have, unfortunately and sadly, had to replace really big members before, going back to AC/DC again. But it's happened. And of course, it creates a bit of a divide for a while, and maybe it upsets some fans. But at the end of the day, the singer is not the only person in the band. And it is the right of the other musicians to continue their careers. Their careers shouldn't have to end because of a tragedy unless they want it to.
Yeah, and I think, we want to preserve this idea of what we love most about these bands and the sound that we love. But if you're truly interested in these people as musicians, you want to hear what else they have to offer. And whether that is with a different singer, what does it mean for the band name itself? And I think, as long as everybody's respectful of the legacy and very clear about what they want to do going forward, there really shouldn't be a lot of pushback from fans. There might be, but there shouldn't.
Usually there is, unfortunately. We'll see in the coming weeks how people react to the news once we find out more news. Hopefully, we get some more information about what's going on soon, and then we'll, of course, be sure to address it then. Be sure to check out our merch store, loudwiremerch.com, and let us know what you think in the comments, whether you're for a reunion, we're twinning, or who you think maybe should be their vocalist. And yeah, just let us know and stay tuned for more.
Thanks for watching.